Howdy y'all, Father here. Wanted to do a quick rundown of the hotfix that just dropped. A lot of nerfs to Pig, as we all kind of expected. We're gonna go through them, and then I'm gonna give my general thoughts on what this means for us in the meta at the end. Hogwash changed to equal to 10% of your max health instead of 5%. So it's now total heal went up pretty significantly. When you heal or gain regen gain, they've reduced this back down to its old value. So 50, 75, 100, instead of it going up to 150 was the scaling that we had at Diamond before. So you don't get as much health when you heal or regen. They added a 7 and 6 second cooldown at Silver and Gold, and then it gets back to 5 at Diamond. And then your enchantments trigger when you use Hogwash instead of when you heal or regen. So yeah, I'm happy with this. I immediately played Hogwash once and went, I don't want to play this again. It was so strong that that's not how I like to play the game. I enjoy solving problems, and there just aren't any problems the moment you enchanted Hogwash, and so it just like didn't do it for me. But over and over again, I wanted to run Hogwash for the other shenanigans, just to be doing the max health thing that Hogwash does with all the other heal regen stuff that I was doing, to try to see if I could put together shenanigans that way. That would take a lot more work and a lot more puzzles to fix. But I didn't feel like I could put Hogwash on my board. I just didn't want to, after like how busted it was, right? Not that you can't, and I don't want to tell people not to chase the fun if you find playing the busted shit fun. Do the shit out of that. I just don't. So I'm back to being excited that I can put this on my board. I'm actually pretty excited that the heal is equal to 10% of your max health instead of 5% of your max health. This gets stronger as a pawn shop belt bonk thing when you get an interesting enchantment on it, right? This becomes kind of spicy as like a double whammy replacement. I don't know, kind of fun. It's not good, but it's fun. We could do a lot of things with it. And then enchantments trigger on Hogwash use instead of when you heal or regen, which, yes, of course they do. Stop doing that, Tempo. Every time you do that, the game breaks. You should not have your enchantments trigger when you do something else. Just don't do that. Stop doing that. We all knew that's a problem. Okay, cool. That's the Hogwash change. Lemonade Stand got taken out back. Old Yeller style. Ow. 12-second cooldown reduction. Look, the original cooldown reduction or cooldown was 7 seconds. If you just moved that to 10, you did it. You did it, boys. We get to cast 3 times in the fight, right? Cool. That was enough. That was fine. Now we have to get it to Diamond before we get to cast it 3 times in a fight. Like, okay, it's dead. Like, I know I added interesting mechanics to Lemonade Stand if you just wanted to murder it, so that's cool. Okay. In case you didn't know, it was very oppressive in the mid game, because especially if you got it like day 2, it was very, very oppressive, because just scaling regen is oppressive. Scaling regen is hard to get through if the numbers are decent at all, and you didn't actually have to really buff your hit points that much. Just kind of throwing it on your board, it suddenly meant like you're either face rush or you lose to me, because eventually I just have too much regen for you ever to do real damage to, and it just offset all your poison and burn that you were stacking on me because I was up stacking you, etc., etc. So it was oppressive and needed to have some solutions. This wouldn't have been my favorite way to do it because we just lost a fun thing. Can I make this work in a hipster infinite health, infinite regen builds? Probably not anymore. Am I going to try? Yes. Is it going to work? No. It already was hard to make that work in the first place, but part of that was because the meta was a little cracked because of all the Hogwash shenanigans. But anyway, they immediately reverted the change and removed the regen ability added to Bird because that was double triggering on things that are when you heal or regen. They moved most of our stuff to when you heal or regen. And then Bird was just too easy to get 2 triggers on those things. And so they removed the regen ability because it's an activator, and it was too strong for that. Bird is already a pretty interesting item as an activator. They didn't need to give it 2 activations. That was busted, so they removed it. Bushel's, I like this. This is much more interesting. So Bushel heals 20, 40, 60, 80. and then it gains regen equal to 10% of its healing for the fight. So scaling your healing on Bushel is also scaling your regen. This is our new double when you heal or regen activator. But it takes a lot of solving. They've upped the cooldown to 5 seconds. It takes a lot of solving to figure out how to get this thing to burr so that you can get those activators. And then those activators don't immediately do anything because you don't have the hogwash enchant. So this is like a question mark puzzle piece that you get to try to like do several things with, a couple bank shots into a build, which I enjoy. I think that's cool. It's objectively weaker day 1, day 2 against monster fights. It used to be just very, very strong for monster fights. It's arguable day 1. It's just as good against enemies, because again, stacking regen is very strong day 1. After a while, you just get out of people's range. So it kind of means if you don't face rush me, I win. So I will still be grabbing this day 1, throwing it on my board. I don't know. I think that's good. I think I never got to play around with it because we only had so much time to try all the things. But I was seeing people say that it felt very oppressive to play against. So I think that's a good enough reason to solve problems with a thing. Things shouldn't be unfun. And then the mushroom event changed back to adding healing to Bushel. Cool. Awesome. All right, which is actually big now. So now if you want to do Bushel shenanigans and play around with it, the mushroom encounter is now important to go to. Long ago in a galaxy far, far away, you used to be able to upgrade your Bushel at the mushroom encounter, which was super fun. And so you would be like, I got Bushel. Oh God, am I gonna get mushroom? Am I gonna get mushroom? And then when you found it, you're like giddy as hell. That's cool. That might be back if there's things we can do with Bushel in the long run. So I'm a little excited about that. The upgrade was pretty broken because people be walking into like day 1 fights with like golden bushels back in the day. Because back then you could start with a silver item. So it was really busted. Wrist Warrior, the Icy enchant got changed to activate when using Wrist Warrior instead of when using Adjacent, because you could imagine how that got broken pretty fast. I haven't gotten to the new items to play around with yet. I'm not sure I understand Jim. It's dead. Just dead. Let's be clear. When you buy a weapon, this gains 2, 4, 6 value. So they went from the scaling from being 1, 2, 3, or 2, 3, 4 to 3, 6, 9, which was insanity. It was one of our best econ plays in the game because you get it when you were buying bronze weapons. So you would buy and sell a bronze small weapon for a marginal cost of 1, and you would get 3 gold back, right? So you would get 2 gold every time you bought and sold the weapon. And then you got the hit points from it. It was a little cracked as just an econ play. So they brought that down. It's still very good econ play. I still like that quite a bit. But now it's scaling to be able to get it to the moon, which we were kind of able to do. If you had an econ online, which I only had 1 run with this and I didn't get my econ online. I imagine you could get this to like when it casts, it was doing something like 500 to 1,000 on your properties. So they pulled that down quite a bit, which is cool. But then they cooldown changed to 12, 10, 8. It's kind of dead as an item now. Like 8 seconds, even if this gives 10,000 damage to my weapons, an 8-second clock before I get to do anything. And then I have to have it lottled so that it now swings the second that 8-second clock hits, or else, right? So people are going to make this work. It's just not good. You should just play drum. There's no, in 8 seconds, you will have killed them if you have fast weapons on a drum board. So I don't know why you would wait 8 seconds to start trying to kill them and then hope that freeze and slow didn't fuck with your game plan, right? Now there's phonographs in the world. There's other things to mess with that timer, but still functionally, this is no longer a good playable item. It is a good econ play. It sits in your stash. It gives you hit points and you make money. That's what Pig's Gym is mostly for right now. Now, that being said, I have not played with the new items. And so there might be things I don't know in terms of how those things interact. And this might be a response to that. So, okay, I will assume that there's good reasons for it. I will not assume that there's good reasons for this. Just like delete the item if you want to delete the item. I don't understand. Change to when you buy this, get 2 busy bees. Change to when you buy a property, your bees gain. So they took down our damage scaling. Again, did they? Is that lower than it was the last time? I don't know, but that's not very high damage scaling. We were damage scaling back in the day, 10 at silver, 20 at gold. So I don't know. Based on our old one, it's still the lower damage scaling. I don't know how it is based on the very last nerf. And then enchants work on busy bees. So now when a busy bee does a thing. So if you have a, when a bee swings burn and all your bees swing, then you burn all those times. So the cool thing is the enchant goes on your beehive now. And then your enchant activates when any of your bees do. So one enchant will work on all of your bees. That's the cool thing. That's awesome. And that's how it should work, because the weirdest thing about the beehive gameplay was that you just didn't know what to do with your damn enchant if you didn't find bootstraps. It just was kind of worthless to you. You put it on a bee, because putting it on your beehive would then give it to you on future bees that never got scaled with your property selling, so it was weak. That's cool. They fixed that. I love that. Chef's kiss. But when you buy this, get 2 bees, no longer when you buy a property, get a bee. Which means that when I first find beehive and I buy it, I get 2 bees. And then I start buying and selling properties, and those 2 bees get buffed. And then sometime later, maybe I find a natural upgrade instead of having to upgrade it with my skill. Because I would have to. Because if I upgrade it at the level 7, upgrade a bronze to a silver or whatever, then I don't get the extra bees from it. And so let's say day 6, I find me another beehive to upgrade it to gold. I'm really excited. I get 2 more bees that start back at nothing. They start with no hit points, right? They're damaged. They're like back to 20 and 10 or whatever it is. And so I have 2 chunky bees and 2 weak ass bees. And then I get to start stacking. And then I get to hope to find another beehive. I will never have a full beehive board ever, right? You literally will have to get duplicate beehive shenanigans to get more than 6 bees on your board. So now you can kind of only run beehive with fort if you wanted to just do a beehive play. So maybe I'm missing something with how this is interacting with some of the new items. Obviously, if you got shield on your beehive and you got, 28-hour fitness, so when you use a weapon shield, when you shield, when you use a weapon, get more shield, when you shield, get more weapon damage, might be whatever, but you still got 7-second beats, man. Like, I don't know. This is deader than dead. If I'm wrong on that, I will be shocked. Now I get to try to play it, though. The upside is it's back on the menu for me, because I get to feel hipster and cheeky trying to run it, but you should not. It is crap. Yeah, that's too bad. Money Tree, Turbo, and Icy enchantments have been changed. They just got lowered to affect like 1 less item, because Money Tree was a little fast to be doing like a double blow, a double haste, a double whatever. So that got dragged down. I think we have the numbers on that. If you want the like exact numbers when they're vague like that, just go to How Bazaar and pull a thing up. Sorry for the scroll spam. 2 items for 1 second instead of 3 for 2. The freeze is 2 items instead of 1 for 3, so it's not oppressively locking the item down, but it's more of a freeze activator. So Frozen Money Tree gets to play really well in a freeze build, which is kind of fun. And then haste 2 items for 1 second is pretty weak. But anyway, those I could see how those would have been really obnoxious to play against, so they lowered those. They have changed the cooldown of Virus so that the Virus is not swinging quite so fast. It's swinging back to the old 9. Or no, it's at 8 at silver. It was 9 at silver. So it's back closer to where it was. And then it comes back down to the new 6. Because this item was a little cracked. You could kind of throw 1 on your board, and if they're running a bunch of smalls, they just murder themselves over time. And we'll talk about how that was an exploit to beat the monster fight in a second when we get to the change they did to the monster fight, which I think was clever. Power standard change to 5 seconds is the thing that hastes the thing to the right, slows the thing to the left of it. And it was like very slow before, so people didn't like it. So they dragged that down. So hopefully that's good. Most of these are buffs. Most of the dually stuff are buffs. And it's probably better for us to look at the actual changes because I don't know Dooley well enough to tell you kind of like what happened. So the cooldown of Power Drill was oh no, Power Drill got nerfed. It's now a flat 100 damage, and then it got dragged down. Is this the new? Yeah. And so it's much, much slower. It's going to take a lot more charges to swing. So this is the problem you have to solve, is its speed. And you no longer have to like solve its flat damage, and it's slightly less. So it's a little bit more usable at bronze in terms of just being a powerful item, but you aren't going to trigger it very much. I'm curious how Dooley players feel about this. I feel like it's still going to be usable, but it's not going to be kind of the one build to rule them all. Power Standard lost 3 seconds, so that's pretty big. We'll see if that gets in play. Virus went, like I said, now it goes up to 9, comes back down to 6. Magnus Femur, I should go back to the other thing because I'm going to lose some if I don't follow the way that we started. Chlorance, they buffed fairly significantly how much damage it gets when a friend is used, so that might give you a little bit of whatever. There's a little bit of buffage to cybersecurity's flat damage. For each weapon or tech you have, I don't know if that's a functional change. Sorry. Sorry for the back and forth here. I think no. Yeah, so they just upped its damage. So I think they nerfed it and they brought it back up a little bit. Actually, they brought it down at Diamond and they brought it up at the other two. Interesting. But I've heard talked about from some people that play this that it's kind of just like not a thing until Diamond, and then it becomes kind of a one-shot thing you get to play with. And so they may have just kind of tried to make it a little more usable in the early game, but just completely screwed it as that one-shot mechanic in the end. So interesting. Beamer got way slowed down, y'all. This is a lot more spam you're going to have to be able to do to get Femur to swing. So that's a pretty big change. Femur will be much, much less oppressive. Custom Scope had an issue with it not charging at Diamond tier, so they fixed that. They added second cooldown to Shock Glasses, which is a pretty big deal because that's a huge activator for Vanessa. So that's going to have a lot of effect on their when you slow, when you haste boards, because it does both to all of your items. It is a massive triggering event item, and it can get shenanigan-y. So I'd have to talk to a Vanessa player to see if they think that's fair, if they think that's going to kind of ruin the item. I'm not entirely sure. The Deadly Enchant was not targeting adjacent friends on Illusoray, so they fixed that. And then Proboscis is back to its old native form from years and years ago, months ago, to being an active item. It's no longer just a passive item that happens every time you slow. It's back to a 4-second active item that when you slow, you charge this 1 second. So that's really cool. So that's cool. I like that. I like that a lot. That's fun. It keeps the Clamora, the 15 Clamoras, start of combat, you lose shit from happening. Yeah. And then change to active. So that's the change. So it's back to an item. Now, if you get to spam Proboscis because you got a bunch of slows on your board, it is being used. So now you could do the when you use a weapon, or if it's slow enchanted, when it swings you slow, so it can give itself a charge, right? So it goes back to the old form of Proboscis, which you could do a lot of fun things with it, except for the busted form of Proboscis, which the charge this 1 second kept going up like a yo-yo does as you leveled it, so it was busted. Okay. 1 virus removed from a Hexa's board. So a Hexa only does one, it much more slowly. And remember, we slowed down the cast time of virus. So it much more slowly converts your small items into poison items. So in case you didn't know what was happening with a Hexa, you'd put 1 small item on your board and you could be naked. And then she would turn your small item and all of her small items into viruses right away. And then she would poison herself to death. You could not lose that fight with only 1 small item on your board. You just couldn't. She would kill herself. A little silly. So they removed 1 virus, so she's gonna more slowly do that to herself. And then replace Nitro with rapid injection system. A Hexa might be mildly terrifying now if you run small items. So if we go to like howbazaar.gg and we look up rapid injection system, When you poison yourself, poison 4, 8, 12, etc. So every time she turns her own things into poisoning you, they're now going to ramp up and poison you, right? And then when you use an adjacent item, poison yourself and gain 2, 4, 6 regen. So as some of those are poisoning her, they're also giving her regen to offset how much it is poisoning her. And then the adjacent items are also triggering this to cast on you, right? So this, I think she's going to do a lot of poison to you as the fight goes on. She has like in combat scaling. So we're going to have to reclock that fight. We don't know anything anymore. Degenerate change back to Street Gamer. Yes, we won, boys. We did it. We did it. Removed 5% max health as a loss result for Mountain Pass ? Yes, please. Thank you. I hated that. Everybody hated that. 5% max health was a lot and busted. But now Mountain Passes just win more. It's just the bad ones are triggering events, right? Oh no, I poisoned myself for like 3 at the start of the fight. So now I have start of combat poison. Oh no, I burned myself at the start of the fight. Now I have start of combat burn. And that was suddenly giving you activators for when you burn, when you poison. Those were good things. Those were not bad things. They were good things, right? And so Mountain Passes still objectively always take this. This is the most powerful event in the game. Consistently powerful event in the game that you actually find. I'm not going to compare it to like form or that kind of stuff, but you know what I mean. It's the thing that shows up that you should click on all the time. Cool. And then the interesting thing about the bad things about Mountain Pass is that they do something that they just tried to remove. So we're going to talk about that in one more second. Flambe fixed an issue where the crit chance option was not working properly. Cool. Okay. Rigged, Rush, Rust, Blizzard. The first time you use an item, haste. The first time you use an item, haste. The first time you use an item, slow. The first time you use an item, freeze. They remove the start of combat shit from all of these so that you don't have start of combat haste on rigged. You don't have start of combat haste from rush, right? So you can't do a when you haste, do this other thing, spam trigger break the game bullshit that a lot of people were using these items for. We no longer get start of combat, I win with Ice Club, right? I actually have to do something before I get to win with Ice Club. That feels fair. And so they removed all of the first time you whatever trigger, and they've been slowly dealing with all of these in the game because they've been a little bit busted. Interestingly, the way that they solved the proboscis problem was to not take away the start of combat Clamora thing. So Clamora still is one of the very few versions of this, which is it's fine. It makes it its unique thing, and you got to do a lot of work to make it busted. I'm okay with that. But the really interesting thing is that the 2 bad effects you could get from Mountain Pass are some of the only start of combat effect skills that you have now. They are the only way to get at the moment combat starts, something starts happening for you on your board. So the 2 negative effects from Mountain Pass are actually really good, cool workarounds that you get to do stuff with. So that's everything. How do I feel? I'm not sad that we lost power. I'm very, very happy that we're not broken. I kind of hate, well, for one thing, the really selfish part of me likes that not every single streamer in the game will be streaming Pig anymore because, you know, it was eating into my niche, man. But then the other part of me also just likes Pig to have to solve problems. That I never liked any of our builds that were just, you find this and then you put your head down and you just keep doing a thing 1,400 times and by the end of the game you win, rather than like constantly trying to solve. So I think we got rid of some of the things that were doing that, and I'm okay with it. I've played enough Beehive in my life. I guess I'm okay with that being dead. And as always, when they completely murder something, they slowly try to bring it back alive. I think that's what they're doing here. I think people got so sick of Beehive and then they tried to fix it and it wasn't enough. And they're just like, we need that to not be a thing for a minute so that everyone takes a collective breath and doesn't hate it. And then later they'll be like, wait, is Beehive back? And they, right, like you kind of have to do that. You kind of have to like kill it for a minute. Especially if it was dominant for as long as it was dominant. So I'm okay with that too. Pig's Gym maybe was doing things that I didn't fully understand with the new items, but when I played it, it felt like a worse drum. It felt like a lot more problems to solve than drum. And then you just needed so many pieces to get the speed down, to get the whatever, that it didn't feel, but I could have been missing something on this because I don't have the new items. So I can't speak as to whether or not I think that's valid, but okay. But my feeling is Bushel's the only new thing I get right now. Like, I feel a little sad. Not because of the loss of power, but because of the loss of play. Like, I don't know until I get the new items if there's any new archetypes from any of the changes. I don't think there are. I don't know if the ratings on any of my existing archetypes have changed. I don't think they did. I think that Pig is kind of where Pig was just before the patch, and that makes me a little sad. Now, I'm a week away from opening up the items, and then that changes. But it's like Christmas morning, we open a bunch of presents, and then like we open the present and we're all excited and like, oh, I could so play with it. They're like, oh my God, so sorry. That was somebody else's toy. I didn't mean, I put your name on the wrong toy. Let me take that back. There's just a little bit of like, well, what do I go learn now? What do I go try, fiddle with, play now? I'm pretty back to being very familiar with Pig, and I'm a little sad about that. I think that's my biggest sadness. In terms of the balance and the meta, we'll have to see. I still think we got a huge general power boost from the heal cleanse mechanic. I just generically, that is so strong for us, that we're now much more competitive day 1, day 2. We have responses to burn going forward. I think we're much more competitive. So our general place in the meta is probably going to be fine. People might still hate us because if our early game comes, actually, this is a hot take. If our early game comes online more, people will hate us less because more pigs will cash out. And then the pigs that you're seeing later, the pigs that didn't cash out. And so you'll see more late pigs that ran into problems instead of just late pigs that like completely got their board together, because they would have lost if they hadn't, right? So you're gonna see Pig, and you're not gonna have that deep sense of dread in your stomach if you see him day 13, because someone might have had a strong mid game and then is now just like didn't solve their problems, or they had a strong early game and they're just now starting to lose like a lot of other heroes do. So you're gonna see some kind of intermittent weak pigs in the late game, not the twilight, but in the late game, and that's gonna like take the edge off of God damn it, I lose. It'll take a while for that to sink in for people, so you're not going to see the Reddit suddenly be like, Pig doesn't feel oppressive anymore for like, I don't know, weeks. People don't tend to post positive stuff, so you might never see that, but I think that that's good and healthy for us. I think where we are in the meta I like is good until I get to see the new items. It might be very strong, and we might be back to hated because we're noshing people in the early game. Some of those things look pretty strong to me. But I just think that I don't have any toys to play with. I got 1 year for Christmas, me and my brothers like got all this cool stuff, like really useful, cool stuff. And then we're just kind of sitting around a little lethargically. And then like my mom waited like 3 hours, and then she went, oh, I think you guys have one more present. And then brought out like the PlayStation or whatever it was, like the Xbox, like the first time that was a thing, the PlayStation or the Xbox, right? And we lost our fucking minds, and it was great and whatever. And then a couple hours later, my older brother well, they're both older brothers, they're twins. My oldest brother by 2 minutes says, you know what? It was a good Christmas before this, but I realized I was sad because I had nothing to play with. I got everything I wanted, but I had nothing to play with. And so it didn't feel like Christmas. That's how I feel about the patch now. I got everything I wanted. We're strong. I just don't have anything to play with. So sorry for the story time, but here we are. Those are my opinions. Those are my thoughts. Hope it was interesting or helpful or just worth your time. But I will, I hope you play around with Pig. Please, as always, the Discord's in the link below. So if you are finding shenanigans that I'm not seeing and you think there's some fun that we should all be trying, let us know, and then we'll call you out on stream. But otherwise, I will see you the next time I'm streaming. Have a good day.